Fiesta ST reviews, you know that one of the things that I've kind of talked about as one of my only complaints on the car is the amount of brake dust. I have white wheels for the summer, and trying to keep the white wheels clean with the factory brake pads is just a never-ending battle. I sealed the wheels with Carbon Collective Platinum wheel sealant, and that really did make a huge difference. It made it easier to clean, but it didn't cut down on the amount of brake dust. While I know that there's a lot of people who subscribe to the thought that, well, you have performance brake pads, you just have to live with the dust, and that's just the way it has to be. I'm not 100% in that camp. I do believe that you can have a high-quality brake pad that performs relatively well on the street and maybe light track use and autocross use, and doesn't have to turn the wheels black after just a few days. I kind of got tired of having people always tell me, wow, your car's really clean, but man, why don't you ever clean your wheels? I'm like, I just did 2 days ago. So I went looking for replacement brake pads, and I've been kind of following what's on the market now for about a year now, knowing that I was going to have to buy new brake pads. Well, this spring, I had a rear caliper that got hung up, and I had to take the brakes apart anyway, and the pads were getting pretty low. I got 32,000 miles on them, and so I decided that it's time to upgrade. So I looked at what was on the marketplace, and I put together a matrix of all the available brake pads and ranked them by their price, their dust performance, their basically the actual braking performance, which is still a huge deal, and a number of other factors. And I assigned numerical values to each one of these pieces of criteria in order to help me make a selection, with an emphasis on it needed to be cost effective, and it needed to be low dust, but it also still needed to be a high performance pad. I was willing to give up a little bit of performance for a little less brake dust. Now, no doubt about it, the factory pads are pretty good on the performance side of things. I've been autocrossing with them, I've driven them on the street, I've driven them on the track, and I was really happy with the performance, but I was willing to give up just a little bit of that performance for a little bit cleaner wheels. So when I looked at everything, and I put all the different pads, the factory pads, even the optional comfort pads, which you get with the all-season tires, Hawk pads, all the different models of Hawk pads, Montoon pads, basically you name it, I found the pad and put it in this matrix. And what I came out with at the end of the day was the Hawk 5.0 pads. These are a little bit of the new model of what I had on my SVT Focus, which is the Hawk HPS I had from the street. But these have been redesigned a little bit and are really supposed to work well with vehicles equipped with ABS. The price from Tire Rack was actually quite reasonable, so I decided that I would go ahead and give them a shot. I figure, you know, I've had good luck with Hawk pads. I've run Hawk pads on a lot of my cars over the years. I'll give them a shot. And I have to say, I'm very impressed. The Hawk pads that I selected are definitely the right pads, I think, for the Fiesta ST. If you can give up, I thought, well, you had to give up a little performance. I don't necessarily think the Hawk pads give up any of the performance. I've now driven over just about 1,000 miles on the pad so far. I've done an autocross session. I've done some high performance, spirited driving on the street. And over again, I come back to the same thought. These Hawk pads, they don't give up the performance, but they do cut down on the brake dust. I took a number of pictures before and after with the factory brake pads and then the Hawk pads. Same type of driving conditions. I did 4 or 5 days back to back of not cleaning the wheels, normal street driving, not driving in the rain, so I could try to really get a good baseline of how they compared. And when I compare the pictures, I would say I cut the brake dust down by a good probably a good 40%. It's almost half. The wheels look considerably cleaner. And now I'd consider this to be more of the amount of dust that you would expect from a better performance street pad, which is way better than what I had with the ST factory pads. Now that I've autocrossed with them, I can at least talk about how well they performed on that, and I'd say they were fantastic. The initial bite is a little bit less than the factory pad, which isn't a bad thing. It made it so I could actually be a little bit smoother on the brakes, but they have a nice linear feel to them. Have zero fade at all in autocrossing. Of course, you're not going to get really, if you have brake fade in autocrossing, you really have a crappy set of pads. So I don't know how they do in fade on the track. The car hasn't been on the track with these pads yet. But for the most part, I am really blown away by the performance of these pads. Enough that I would say anybody who's either got a Fiesta ST, Focus ST, or even the Focus RS for that matter, these Hawk 5.0 pads are a really good alternative to the factory pads. I would definitely, give them a shot. I don't see any reason why not to go with them. In fact, they're actually a lot quieter too. Before it used to have this grinding noise and it's a little bit of squealing from the factory pad. That has all disappeared. So, from a performance standpoint, I would give them 8 out of 10 for street and autocross use, because that's what I've used them for. I would give them a 9 out of 10 on dust performance. I think a ceramic pad is probably a 10 out of 10, but I don't really want to run a ceramic pad. Noise, give a 10 for 10. They're perfectly quiet. I don't hear anything from them. Price, I think I gave them around, like a 7 out of 10. They're very reasonably priced. They're not too expensive. They're not the cheapest pad in the world. But for everything that you get with these pads, the Hawk 5.0 pads, I think, are one of the best pads that I've ever purchased and are a wonderful fit if you have a Fiesta ST. And I'm sure that would be the same case if you have a Focus ST or an RS. One thing to note, make sure you do the proper bed-in process and make sure you clean the rotors to get all the original pad material off them, so you can either swap out to new rotors or just make sure that they're thoroughly clean beforehand. And I think you'll be rewarded with a really good brake package. I've heard a lot of people complain about these, that they're just terrible brake pads and they don't have any feel to them and there's no initial bite. I'm not sure what they did with their brake pads. I don't have any of those complaints at all. In the 1,000 miles I've driven it, I've had a couple panic stops with a deer running out in front of me, on a crossing, stop and go traffic. I have zero complaints about these pads. So I would definitely check them out for your Fiesta ST, and for you Focus ST and RS owners, you might want to think about these as well. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the Hawk 5.0 pads. Stay tuned, we have some more reviews coming. I got some other upgrades to the car in the last few weeks, and those will be coming up shortly. So hope you guys enjoy it, and run out and go get yourself some Hawk pads and enjoy the same braking performance that I am. You guys enjoyed those corners as much as I did. We'll talk to you guys later.